Hey guys, welcome to FF Uncensored. Trevor just finished his lunch and now he's very excited to join in today's conversation.
Let's talk for a second about convenience. Okay. So when you have things that are convenient, it's a whole lot easier to do them. So I'm gonna give you a quick example and then we'll get into what we're actually gonna talk about today. So well-made meals they deliver to the gym, right? And so we have done for you meals essentially in our fridge at the gym. And it's a perk for our coaches. They get a meal. But lunches, I just go grab one. But it wasn't quite enough calories for me. So I've got these guys. Have you ever got these from Costco?
No, but I buy something similar from the grocery.
So I don't typically cook it in this. Like I actually take it out of this and I put it into a glass bowl before I microwave it. But sometimes you just don't have access to that, so I microwaved it in this. But it's just an easy way. So this is an extra 310 calories. It'll give me another like 70 grams of carbs for my little meal, and I just like put it in the microwave. Super awesome, super convenient. So it makes it a whole lot easier to stick to things rather than just grabbing crap. So that's my soapbox for the day.
I feel like we could do a whole episode on our favorite convenience items to help you stick to your goals.
That's a great episode idea. I love that. We'll put that down.
I did while you're freaking talking to us while you're eating, which I'm pretty sure your mom yelled you about as a child. Okay, so today, while we watch Trevor eat his convenience food that supports his health and wellness goals, we are going to talk about dress shoes. We are not at my house today, so I have no dress shoes to show you. Not even that I have dress shoes at my house that I could show you, but
I have a pair of Metcons sitting here that can kind of like...
They're not even close to a dress shoe. Just put them on the floor.
They kind of are. So, all right. What do most dress shoes have?
A heel.
A heel of some sort. Most male dress shoes, and then women's is like even higher, right? Now we're looking at heels. We're looking at all of that nonsense, right? And so, right, whoever came up with it, I don't know. We should just like Google like the history of dress shoes. It was probably someone came up for it for a very noble reason, right? And it was probably so that you could remove the soles and then put on a new sole when they wear out and yada, yada, yada. But they just become a very important staple in like business culture, right? Or professional culture, things like that. If you're going to the office, yada, 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 you're wearing dress shoes. So while dress shoes are great and they look awesome and all of that, they destroy your feet. Like I'm just going to be very blunt with the vast majority of dress shoes destroy your feet, especially ones that come to a point, right? We all know the pointy-toed ones, right? I don't know what they're called in men's shoes. It's like something, there's a term for it. You can tell how many dress shoes I wear and buy. And so what that does essentially to your toes, right, is takes all of your toes and does this to them, right? And so it squeezes them. It squeezes those toes. And I don't have stats on this, but I would argue that dress shoes are probably one of the strongest contributors to things like bunions and other foot or toe disorders, because the body reacts to stress, or it adapts to stress, right? And so if I constantly compress my toes, right, and push them together, what do you think is going to happen to my toes?
They touch.
They're gonna get stuck like that, right? Just like if you make that ugly face, you know, that your mom always said, stop making the ugly face because it's gonna get stuck like that. Like literally, though, you look at people that have spent their lives in dress shoes. Show me your toes, and you're gonna probably have a very narrow, and you probably don't have much articulation at all through your feet. Hopefully you.
Yeah.
Look at that. It's pretty good pinky toe action there.
Yeah.
And so it adds a bunch of stresses to the foot, which then causes issues, right? We were never really meant to wear shoes, right? And so we were meant to walk in the foot splayed, and actually your toes should be wider than the ball of the foot or that kind of like structural base of the foot.
So, what I always like to explain to clients when I talk about your feet are literally the sensory for the bottom of your body. So, they have the same sensory receptors that your hands have. So, imagine if you put gloves on your hands and you wear gloves all day long, how would you feel about your environment and how would you interact with your
Be
environment?
sweaty. My hands would be sweaty all the time. You should be
Okay.
sweaty.
You would have sweaty hands. But when we put socks on our feet, that's the equivalent. So socks take away some of the textile, the same as you lose a lot of textile. But then we put shoes on top of that, which gives you limits even more how much you're gaining from your environment. And that's why, when we talk about grounding and other things that we're doing, like there are sensations that we get from the ground that tell our body how to move and adapt. So for example, if I stepped in a rock on a barefoot, my foot would go around it, it would hurt, and I would move. Whereas now, if I stepped in a rock in a shoe, I might just move and roll. So you might roll your ankle, like other stuff like that. There's new adaptations that we have to deal with when we're dealing with wearing shoes all the time.
But let's not make shoes the devil either. I mean, we're talking about this, but
you should protect your feet, but there are better options for shoes.
Correct. There are better options for shoes, but there is value to having something on the bottom of your foot. And just like things that we do though to help improve our feet, like all of our athletes, when they come into the facility, all of our athletes warm up barefoot or in socks, right? That's just it's a requirement. Like you warm up in socks because we want them. They spend the vast majority of their lives in shoes. And if they're wearing athletic shoes, they're typically overly built, right? A basketball shoe, a cleat, they have a lot of rigidity to them because who knew we're a lot faster when we have a really stable foot, right? And traction with the ground. It's amazing. And so we wear shoes to improve performance, right? The last thing I would ever want to do is play basketball in my bare feet. Nah, it would not be an enjoyable experience, right? Landing after jumping is nice when there's a cushion, right? And so, but we spend a lot of our time basically encased in this stuff. And we don't ever give the feet freedom to be able to move. And so much of our warm up is around giving them freedom, proprioception, balancing, and trying to bring back some of the sensations of the foot because we get a lot of information from our environment through the nerve endings in our feet, right?
I would say a lot of my athletes don't even train with shoes on. They only put them on for energy system type stuff at the end of their workout.
Mm-hmm. Or cutting and those kind of things where you actually need traction.
Yeah.
Sled work.
Yeah. The bike, because it's uncomfortable.
It says spikes on it.
It does have little spikes on it.
And so go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so this isn't an either or. It's not like shoes or no shoes. There is definitely a middle ground. And there's been a lot of companies that have kind of caught on to this. I think the whole barefoot running phenomenon is really the first domino, right? There was a book called Born to Run, which looked at a group. Whether or not what's true in the book is another thing. There's some stuff coming out about there may be some fabricated items in it, but or I should say embellished items. But there was a tribe in Mexico called the Tarahumara Indians, and they would run from village to village, and they would essentially run with a sandal on that was very, very thin. That was kind of I think it was called a Hirachi or something like that type of sandal. And so, what's the guy's name? McDougall, I think it was the guy that wrote the book. And so it really started this consciousness around what are we doing with our feet and is there a better way? Because we thought that shoes were the answer to everything, right? The shoes were the answer to all of foot issues, where it was really probably the absence of shoes is really the answer. And then restoring proper function to the foot and to the arch so that shock absorption, that mechanism can support our body, right? And so that kind of kicked this thing off, right? Nike had their Freeze back in the day, right? The Nike Freeze, which was kind of the first variation on barefoot shoes. And it's really evolved since then. And now pretty much every major company has barefoot style shoes. And then they also have what's called wide toe box type shoes. So the vast majority of shoes they'll narrow in right as they come. I got my Metcons here. My Metcons are a good example because these aren't great shoes, right? And so yeah, are those Metcons? Yeah, same ones. Hey,
no,
twins.
They're Nobles.
Oh, But yeah, so like you'll see like the toe box, yours is even more narrow than mine. But the toe box gets,
My foot is smaller than yours.
yeah, but mine's wider. So the toe box gets pretty narrow as you go. And what are those other ones? No bulls? Are they
These
both
are
no?
my zeros.
Okay, yeah. So that's actually a really good example. Put those up again because
The-
that kind of shows you. So if you look at the difference here with the zeros don't arch quite so quick, or they don't drop quite so quick. They stay high through your big toe, first toe. I don't even know what your toes are called. Is it your first toe? The one next to your big toe, the little piggy next to the
the
second
pointer
piggy.
toe, and then the middle
I don't know.
toe,
I don't
and
know if
then the
anyone's
ring
ever
toe.
pointed with their toe, but you can see, like, keep holding them up. So like you see that it just stays high longer, which gives those, because like there's some people that are weird and their second toe is longer than their big toe, right? And so like the shoe just stays wider for longer, so it doesn't compress that little toe in towards your fourth toe, right? The little piggy in towards the next piggy. And so it allows you to splay out that foot, which is really what should happen when we're contacting the ground. Is we shouldn't be compressed with our toes. We should have this nice splay action. And my feet are all screwed up from 25 years of basketball and basically putting casts on my feet and ankle braces and yada yada yada, right? Tis the way many years ago. And so I've actually had to do a lot of work on trying to restore some function through my feet, especially like my big toes, trying to get flexibility back through my big toes and articulation through your toes. So people that have good like foot articulation are like kind of like aliens. They're kind of cool. Like they're able to like move just their big toe. They're able to like just move their little toes. But can you do it? It's gonna be hard to see it on the ground.
I can't do it here, but I think I can. I can pick my big toe up and only my big toe.
Yeah. So that's a good example. Like if you want to, like if you're listening to this and you maybe don't have shoes on, sweet. Like congratulations, this is awesome. I'm actually in sandals today. But put your feet on the ground, plant them flat on the ground, and just try and lift up your big toe. Just your big toe, only your big toe. Try that. Are you able to do it?
And don't do this.
And you
with your
can't like
foot.
roll. Yeah, don't roll it. Foot
And
stays
the
flat.
next articulation is to keep your big toe down and then lift all the other friends up without articulating the other way. Those are some of my starting favorite foot drills that I use with clients all the time.
And then try to splay as far as you can. Like spread the toes out as far as you can.
Ooh, mine looks so good when I do that.
And so you'll find that like this is a lot of hard work, right? Like it's like mentally, you're trying to do it, like you're like telling your feet to do it, but like they just can't do it. So those are some really good places to start. And then also like some tissue work at the beginning of sessions. I like to just get a lacrosse ball and actually roll through. I'm gonna get my big foot up here just to show you guys. Look at that guy. So give my mic a little closer. All right. So big foot here, right? So our foot really has three arches. We've got this arch across the bottom, right by my heel. We've got what most people think of as the arch, and then there's a third arch that goes right through there. So those are actually three areas that we want to smash really hard. Lacrosse ball, golf ball, something like that, just to help. What it's going to do is it's going to force all the bones in your foot to like move and articulate and help to reduce tension and adhesions that could potentially be forming on the bottom of our foot.
And the really cool thing about your feet is that work on your feet can help with aches and pains in your knees and your hips and your low back because they are all connected to that. Like think about the bottom of your feet are still considered part of your posterior chain. So it's going to connect to everything up the whole entire backside of your body. And that's why starting there and working on them is just as important as any other exercise that you do. Your feet have muscles in them and that kind of stuff, and they can be exercised as well. I want to do a little spiel on high heels. Can we change a little bit? Okay, cool. So if you guys have ever seen a little kid that's a toe walker, like little kids, there are totally groups of kids that walk only on their toes or on the balls of their feet. This is something that a parent would take their kid to therapy for because these kids are actually shortening all of the muscles on the backside of their legs when they're walking around like this all the time. So we actually send kids to therapy to help them walk flat on their feet so these muscles get worked, they get relaxed, and they're balanced and they can walk like the rest of us do in normal walking patterns. But then we have women who are wearing high heels for 8, 10, 12, 15 hours of the day, and they're not spending that time in that flat foot. So this is for little kids. We do it because it can cause like growing pains and like issues in their back and their gait and all this stuff. But then we wonder why women who wear high heels for 8, 10, 12, 15 hours a day have low back pain, or their calves are tight, or it hurts to wear normal shoes. I have to wear a heel. We weren't really intended to be walking on our tiptoes for multiple hours of the day. It's a skill. You should be able to walk on your toes. You should be able to walk on your heels, but we should not be only in those positions because we're tightening stuff that shouldn't be tight and we're loosening stuff that shouldn't be loosened for that many consecutive hours together.
And like the other thing that it does too, that's just to be aware of, is when we go up on our toes, right, it changes our center of gravity, right, our center of mass. And so if we're standing up and we have good posture, right, the center of our mass goes all the way through our body and comes out at the middle of our feet. But the second we move onto our toes, it takes your entire center and moves it forward. And to prevent yourself from falling over, you have to almost lean back in order to recenter yourself with gravity, like in a nice vertical vector, right? And so that's why when you wear high heels, typically your butt sticks out. And that's, like one of the reasons for heels, right? It helps to accentuate the feminine figure, right? And so like that's a piece of it. But then with every action, there's a reaction, right? So if my butt's out behind me, okay, then my chest is going to be out
It's
here.
Literally, you said the feminine, it's literally it like adjusts where your assets sit.
Correct. Right. And so like we just have to be aware of the potential long-term consequences. Like if you wear heels one night and you go out, like not an issue, right? Or you wear them every once in a while, not going to be an issue. It's the chronic exposure to these shortened tissue lengths where it becomes an issue. And so and don't like, and so we're saying heels, like high heels, but this could be any sort of heel, right? Like
Boots.
a half-inch heel, an inch
So
heel, like
this is really funny. So Zach wears a cowboy boot. It always has a heel, and he will start having some back pain if he's more like he's been in them for a long time. He's been wearing it. He'll be like, "Man, my back really hurts today." I'm like, "Weird. I don't know why." Like, but he's been wearing shoes like this for so long. I mean, it happens when you're stuck in a lot of positions, but it can happen even with the tiniest amount. So like,
Yep.
it is definitely something like you need to wear regular shoes. You need to like. I recommend my clients to walk around barefoot around their house every day. Like stuff like that can help too.
And like if you're used to wearing a heel a lot, don't just jump into like flat shoes. Like that, the recipe is not to just like, hey, I normally wear high inch or high heels, and now I'm just someone Ashley told me to stop doing it, so I'm just gonna wear a flat every day. And
Zero drop.
like you're gonna have issues right away. And so you want to like slowly progress down, right? Or start spending some time out of it, but maybe not really long lengths of time. Because like when we're talking about tendons and those kind of things, they take a really long time to adapt. They're not like muscles that can adapt in weeks. Tendons take months to get true adaptations, right? And so that's why there were a lot of people that were going from running shoes to running barefoot or flat shoes, and they were getting hurt, or they were having Achilles tendinopathy and other things going on because we took something that was in a shortened state and we asked it to stretch a whole lot when it didn't have that capability yet or that capacity yet. And so slowly making your way is a good place to be, right? And so looking at every shoe that you buy, right, when you look at the specs or the descriptions of the shoe, it's going to say like a millimeters on it, and that's telling you how much of a heel lift there is in that particular shoe. Shoes with more cushion will be higher millimeters. You could get in the 20s, maybe even the 30s, right? Then you have some shoes that are called zero drop, which essentially means that your footbed and your heel bed are even, right? There's no rise in your heel. And the reason a lot of running shoes were created with really big heels was because most people are heel strike runners. And so their heel contacts first. So that's where the majority of the cushion is, which increases the height of the heel, but it decreases the potential forces when you're hitting the ground.
So when I think of high heel drop shoes, like really cushiony shoes, I was thinking about Hoka's. The highest Hoka has an 8 millimeter drop. So if you guys aren't familiar with Hoka's, they are like the trending shoe right now. I don't particularly love to run in shoes like that because I don't like that I can't feel the ground at all. But they are great to walk around in. I think they're one of the most comfortable walk around shoes. I also would never lift in them because I feel like I'm standing on a pile of gummy bears trying to do squats. But that's
Right.
me.
But I mean, that's not a lifting shoe, right? That's if you want a shoe that actually has a level of performance in the gym, you want a shoe that has a little bit stiffer of a sole, right? It needs to be, or even more of a barefoot shoe works as well. So,
Okay, so before we finish, because I think we're about to wrap up,
mhm.
I would like to tell you the names and histories that we've used for pointed dress shoes for men because they are hilarious. And I'd like to share them
I would.
before you are
I
ready to
hope.
wrap
I
up.
hope. That, I hope that you share them. And next week we'll maybe give some shoe recommendations and who we want or what different shoes we've been trying and what we like. So
So they are called Crowcows, Crawcows, Crowcows.
okay,
Um, then we have Winkle Pickers,
winkle pickers. Those are my
and
favorite.
then we have Dagger Toes.
Dagger toes.
I, in modern terms, the terms pointed toe or dagger toe are more common when referring to men's shoe styles with the pointed toe. Of course, women's are called stilettos, and history for the high heel or the elevated heel started in the late 1800s, early 1900s. No, by late 18th century, early 19th century, that was a whole decade, 100 years before I was originally saying. And it started with nobility to show class. Some of the most popular dress shoes are the Oxfords.
Mhm.
Okay, so there you guys go for a little history.
Uh,
Um,
so next week we'll talk a little bit about shoes. We can give some recommendations. We can talk about shoes for different activities because I think that's good too. I have a different shoe that I run in versus what I lift in versus what I just wear around every day. Because they just need different. They have different requirements, right? And so, do you need a different shoe for everything? No, you can find one that's a pretty versatile type of shoe. But if something's important to you and you're doing it on a regular basis, you might as well find ways to optimize it, right? I would rather buy those things than buying more dress shoes. So I have my black pair and my brown pair, and I don't need any more dress shoes.
I don't think I have a single pair of dress shoes right now, and I need to dress up to do stuff. And I'm like, I don't have. I guess I'm wearing. I'm so glad sneakers and gym shoes are in right now, or
So
sneakers
in,
and dress clothes are in for women right now because that is my look.
so in.
So in. All right, guys. Until next time. See you later.
See ya. Deuces.
You have.
I got